It's time to go back to rewind.
The question is, can Capcom and Marvel work together once more to make an unlikely comeback? Let's find out. Well, they said Capcom is releasing 3 major titles from now to March 2021, so there might be a chance. I agree with your roster, you left out so many good characters. Where's Psylocke, Rogue, Gambit? Bruh, no Sentinel or Strider? Also no love for rival schools? I am thinking that NBC4 we're gonna announce that Evil Online. Oh, this shit didn't age well, did it? Welcome to the rewind and the rearrangement of the Marvel vs. Capcom 4 roster. You thought it was over? Nah. You see, here's the thing. I fucked up. And here's why. 6 months ago, I uploaded a MVC4 concept video on my concept series, The Fighting Vision Unleashed HD Remix. Yes, I know, it's a long name. We covered the roster, gameplay, main menu, art style. The end result felt satisfying, and the video itself did well. But now, looking back on this 42-minute long video, I definitely fucked some things up when it comes to explaining things. Yes, this roster, the roster that was in the video, did have Wolverine and Leon and some pretty good, fantastic choices, yeah, pun intended. But the roster selection itself, it looks like shit and it kind of looks mundane. So we'll be fixing that. But before we do, I have to re-explain the concept gameplay. Now bear with me for a minute or two. The concept gameplay is easy to understand, but why do we need to recover it in the first place? It's because I have a firm belief that the roster building and gameplay building go hand in hand, side by side. And if you don't do that, you're a fucking hack. Damn, those fucking YouTubers always like copying me. Anyway, let's talk about that EX gauge that's not a Street Fighter one. Now, if you don't know, you're going to love this idea. This is individual for each character and allows the character to have new moves and a transformation for a limited amount of time if the player chooses not to spend 1 or 2 bar. Example being simple in Spiderman to Spiderman, a Hulkbuster for Iron Man.
Probably use that Hulkbuster on the right about now.
Yes, and an entire bar meter individual for a character that can allow him to change to a different archetype. That sounds absolutely nuts. All you gotta do is spin a bar of 2 bars of regular meter to keep it. Now that I think about it, the Hulk actually, Full Rage Hulk is a good example and sounds scary as shit. And also, of course, there's the Evil Ryu for regular Ryu. And since we're here, let's talk about the X Factor and getting rid of that motherfucker. Because honestly, when I first thought about this idea, I thought they can coexist, but it'd be a little bit too overpowered. I can't show you guys and talk about the gameplay of a 4v4 potential game without show you the controls. Now I did mess up here in the last video when I showed this. Actually LK and HK on the arcade stick here are supposed to be switched, so just keep that in mind. Of course, I also thought about having an EX individual meter to transform for people to find it easy to do it with, you know what I mean? And of course, I did think about assist 3, but the more I thought about it, I think there should only be 2 assists by having 4 characters. Of course, you can always tell me what you think in the comment section below. What do you think about this combat concept? I think it could really work, and I think it's the next step for the Marvel vs. Capcom series. I also wanted to redo the menu here that I did before, but we're going to leave it alone. But yeah, that's how whack it was. Anyway, let's go over to the roster essentials. Alright, so on the Capcom side, we have Ryu, Chun-Li, Megaman, Original, Morgan, Dante, from Marvel, Captain America, Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, and Spiderman. 5 characters on both sides, 10 in total. Ladies and gentlemen, we have your most essential characters, and if you probably noticed, if you're a big Marvel 2 fan, yes, this is the same number of characters and slots as Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So 56 should be the roster expectation for Marvel vs. Capcom 4. But who's to say we won't add a little bit more? Now let's head over to the Marvel side of where we might include some corporate tie-ins. Oh boy, let's go take a look at these characters a bit close up. Doctor Strange. We got Falcon, Winter Soldier, Scarlet Witch, Vision, yes, the Winter Soldier. I'm going to talk about him in a second. Blade, and Moon Knight. Now, these are particularly good choices, but they are tie-ins no matter what you want to believe. Moon Knight has a series coming up, She-Hulk, Blade has a movie, Doctor Strange has a movie coming up, and the WandaVision show is right around the corner, if not already out.
Need some bullets? Take mine. It ain't over yet. Keep the change. Satisfied yet?
Now this may be a controversial pick, but we all know that the Winter Soldier is the most boring Marvel vs. Capcom character in history. Literally in history. The most poorly implemented character. I might even consider doing a list for that separately. But he is a part of the upcoming The Falcon and the Winter Soldier coming on Disney Plus. He has to be included. I did mention She-Hulk, right? Anyway, I think it's about that time for some triumphant returns. Now these few characters are going to make this roster look pretty damn healthy. But let's start at the damn top with some X-Men. Returning X-Men. The long-awaited return of Wolverine, Storm, Magneto, Cyclops, and Jean Grey. Yes, the very first time these two are going to be in the fighting game together. So be prepared for the
Jean! 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 Jean!
Now this may be a little bit controversial, but we also adding Nash, Jury, and Bison and Akuma to the Street Fighter side, making a total of 6 Street Fighter characters. And why Jury? Well, because not because I'm a simp, but it's just because, you know, she's a rival.
Back for another beating, officer? Or maybe you've got a little schoolgirl crush.
One way or another, you're coming with me.
Adding 2 more Darkstalker characters to the mix. Yeah, Darkstalkers. Yeah, I say that all the time. It's Darkstalkers, whatever. I'll say Doc, whatever I want. Donovan and Jeddah returns from Infinite. Nah, no, nobody wants to let him go, so he returns. Also, more Devil May Cry 5 characters. I neglected to mention that these are all going to be Devil May Cry 5, Dante, V, and Nero. And of course, we got Jill, regular Jill, kind of making a return from Marvel's Capcom 2, maybe a little different. And Leon S. Kennedy. Oh yeah. So far, this roster is looking pretty good. And I think this point might be the favorite part for everybody, because anything can happen at this point. Anything can make this roster do or die. But it's about that time we get a little controversial with our picks and finish everything else. So, without further ado, let's finish this entire roster and start talking about why I chose these last fighters for base 64. Potentially even, well, base potentially 64, but base 56. Let's get this going, man. Let's rebuild the fighters, and let's start off in the middle right there alongside the Fantastic Four. Allow me to explain what is Red Earth. Tessa, Leo, Mai Ling, and Kenji. All warriors, not part of the same team, but working towards the same goal, to defeat Sion, the mad wizard that changed their world. Their game involves a weird fighting game mechanic of RPG and against nothing but boss battles, it seems. And it's honestly really interesting. And if you haven't recognized it, and if you're a Capcom fanatic, you would probably realize this. Or if you're a fanatic and grew up in the 90s and you probably don't recognize it, just because this game didn't really have a release outside the arcades. Either way, these characters deserve to be in it. And yes, some of you may recognize some of these characters from Capcom Fighting Champ, but we don't want to talk about that right now. Anyway, just appreciate them in their original setting. Look at the boss battle against Sion. He's also on this roster too, and he's a pretty good range character, by the way. Just look at the half the shit he's doing to Kenji right now. That dude stands no chance. This is a bad matchup. He also has a transformation at the end when you defeat him once, so he has a big 4 bars. It's crazy. Retro Capcom fans, long await the day we officially get a release of Red Earth. But until then, they could join the ranks of other obscure characters that could potentially be in the roster and against a rival Fantastic Four. They may not be a part of a team, but they can function as one and be marketed as one against the Fantastic Four, which I think would be pretty cool. Now, next up we have Bass, but not just any Bass, not Bass from the original Mega Man, Bass EXE. Now I know there's been some Mega Man EX fans been craving for some versus treatment. I mean, Mega Man Volnut from Mega Man Legends was in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Now that I know some of you may rather Mega Man EXE be in, but I think Bass EXE coming in makes for a very pleasant surprise, and he has the moveset to pull it off. Next up is Asura from Asura's Wrath, another niche pick, but not niche. I mean, how many people put them on their roster? You know what I mean? He is inevitable as a 1 rep. I made a mistake last time of giving him way too many characters than he deserves. But hey, 1 rep is more than enough. Let's head over to the top here, where you see a whole bunch of characters that may tick you off and may not. But then you see him. Motherfucking Gambit. Wow. Like, imagine just, you know, them announcing Marvel's Capcom 4, them announcing Xmen, and then you see the announcement of fucking Gambit. That has to be super hype. He has to come back, no matter what. Especially since, you know, we need more X-Men, and the Gambit is, of course, a really good choice. Speaking of shitty choices, good choices. I'm a little on the fence with Mystique here, and I may even consider replacing her before the end of this video, but most likely she'll stay. She hasn't been really good in fighting games at all, and she never even really barely used her shape-shifting ability, so I'm very curious to see what Capcom will bring up. Now I know Captain Edward, or Edward Captain, whatever the fuck his name is, Edward Falcon, could be the character here, but I think a female choice first might be more wise. It's more Capcom to do that. So having Rogue from Power Stone be the Power Stone representation is my choice. And, you know, there's a leak coming up, so why not put some Power Stone in there? You know what I'm saying? On the Capcom side, I've added a QB to make 4 Darkstalkers representations. That's more than enough for them, but we might get to a little more later. We got Virgil. Actually, I wasn't considering Virgil because Virgil always appears in special editions of games. And we got Resident Evil 8 Chris and Jack Baker. Over on the Marvel side, we got Morbius and Punisher. But if you really think about it, there's a theme here. A team theme that I think Capcom would do and what I chose to do. I mean, there should be advantages taken of having Ghost Rider, Hulk, Spiderman, and Wolverine in the same game where they can play all together. That's the new Fantastic Four. That's been done before. You could form that team. Or what about Morbius, Blade, Ghost Rider, maybe even new members of the Midnight Suns, or newer members or other versions of members like Scarlet Witch, the Punisher, Moon Knight. And we got some members of the Defenders. Silver Surfer, Doctor Strange yet again, Hulk. And then we got some Avengers. And then we got some Xmen, some Brotherhood. Interesting stuff, but not the end yet. Let me introduce you to a potential system. Now this is something I know a lot of you will like, but I'm not sure all of you will believe. But let me convince you that this is something that Capcom can do, because it's something that they've done before. So let's take a look. We kind of selected Nash on the character selection and War Machine. Hold up. This brings the question, another thing I forgot to mention. Where's Thor? Where's female Thor? Where's US Agent? How could they be implemented into the game without having a character slot or wasting a DLC slot as a full character? Welcome to the Alter Ego system. Capcom is no stranger to adding secret variations of characters in their fighting games, especially if you look at the past Marvel vs. Capcom games. Mephisto, Shadow, which is a version of Charlie, and yes, US Agent! Hey, what do you know? So why not apply that same or something similar to the game? And heck, you can even pick US Agent and Captain America together. But how? Will they be a secret character? No. US Agent in a game of Marvel vs. Capcom 2, just like in the past, or similar to it, can be an alter ego of Captain America. A person with the same exact moveset with a different voice lines and interactions with other characters. And maybe a different super and a little bit of different moves here and there. That's what an alter ego is. So when you go to select Iron Man, for example, you can choose between War Machine and Rescue, two other different voice characters, but you still have the option not only to pick Iron Man multiple times, but in different forms as an alter ego. Take a look at Nash and Charlie. They're different enough, but they're not different enough to be separate characters. Here's some more examples. We already mentioned Jane Foster. Jane could be an alter ego of Thor. Better Ray motherfucking Bill can. A perfect example of this is the alter ego of Morgan, Lilith. They can be playable too. Kage for Ryu. And I know we talked about Evil Ryu being part of the EX moveset for Ryu, but Kage could be a different alternative to that. So think of the alter ego system and the EX system kind of existing with each other. So if you pick War Machine, alter ego of Iron Man, and the example we mentioned earlier, Iron Man can transform into Hulkbuster, War Machine can't do that. So that's one thing to consider. But also, these so-called alter ego / character or premium skins, if you want to really call it that, can be lesser than the price of a DLC character. It could be a way for Capcom to give fan service, please Disney, please themselves, and please the fans all at the same time with a bit of extra work. Yeah, I mean, right now I'm showing on screen more examples of this. Roll could be one of Megaman, even though in recent games she has had different movesets, like in Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. Still, she could still be another character if Capcom wants to do that. Or maybe they want to call back to MVC1, but that's up to them. You know, Shadow Lady, Lilith, they've done this before. Yes, the roster is huge. How about some more examples of this? What about Ju-Ni, Ju-Li, and Decapre for Cammy? I forgot to mention that I added Cammy to the roster, another Street Fighter character. But people love Cammy, and I love Cammy. Anyway, what about Proto Man, another obvious one for Mega Man? Or what about this one, D for Donovan? Yeah, if he's not an EX move, hypothetically. What about Spider-Gwen for Spider-Man, Miles Morales? What about Robbie Reyes for Ghost Rider? And of course, Polaris for Magneto. Therefore, he can have both of his daughters in the game, fighting alongside of him. Poor Quicksilver, he never stood a chance. He could be in the roster, but you never know. Not before those two. So that's the alter ego system, man. What about some joke shit? Imagine getting owned by Doombots. We have Dr. Doom, and Doombots would be just the really weak versions of it. I can imagine them utilizing that in a story mode first before you unlock it. What about some really challenging stuff too? Like for Leon, you have a secret variation or alter ego where you have Ashley by your side. And if she gets hurt, you get hurt. So it's kind of like playing Resident Evil 4 in a sense. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but it also sounds really fucked up too. And some people might like it. It sounds fun and stupid at the same time. But that's an idea. And that's the alter ego. But there's one more thing before we go that we need to discuss. Now, discussing DLC for a game that doesn't exist yet is kind of weird. But that's what we do on Roster Rearranged in the Fighting Vision series. We do that type of shit. And that's why when I add the Clash of Superheroes DLC, it really be on that bullshit. Seriously though, I know that StreetFighterV, a lot of you like him, and I didn't put him on DLC on purpose just to piss you off. That's part of the reason why I did it. But no, seriously, Clash of Superhero DLC I think is an interesting choice as a first DLC pack, but only if you add Strider and Venom for free. All rest being Zangief, and I know another Street Fighter character, bear with me, Captain Commando and Jin Satome from the two characters from another Dead franchise, let's be real. So I think, those characters are classic Marvel vs. Capcom characters. Them to return in that DLC format, I think, is very beneficial to the Capcom side of things. But heading over to the Marvel side of things, we get some more interesting shit. Now, we mostly got the Marvel vs. Capcom crew in the base roster, but not Jubilee. But why make Jubilee playable? Maybe not as a joke character, not even. Well, you see, this is to make things kind of full circle. She was featured on a very iconic cover of Marvel vs. Capcom 1. And every character on this cover, and Onslaught's a little bit above the full picture, was playable, except for Jubilee. So to finally make her playable in this DLC pack would be very, very nice and a good touch. So yeah, that's why I kind of added Jubilee. Whether you hate her or not, no, Capcom can pull some really cool shit with that character. And then we have the other characters. Colossus, another Xmen, and Onslaught, another Xmen. But Onslaught is a boss character. So it would be really nice after all these years to make him playable. And if you really want to think about it, Cyclops, Magneto, and Juggernaut, moves that he kind of stole from to begin with, are already in the game. So it's kind of like his assets are already there. So you might as well just add this behemoth Onslaught. And you never know. They might even add a Professor X model just for him. You know what I'm saying? So that in a way we can kind of get Professor X playable, but not. Something to think about right there. I would love Onslaught to be in here. And that's why I put him in the DLC option. But that's a long ways from now. But before I go, I offer you guys a challenge. Notice how there's no Guardians in the Galaxy here. Ms. Marvel. All those boring fucking characters. Captain Marvel. Characters that, honestly, if we're gone, we won't be missing them. And then there's characters like Deadpool, which you probably will want with Cable. I'm offering you guys a challenge. A potential challenge in a part 3 of this video. So what I want you to do in the comment section below is I want you to decide the roster, and I'll make it roster rearrange. The community fights back. A potential part 3 to this whole thing. Now use the hashtag #fightback. 1. List 4 essential characters of both Capcom and Marvel, and then make a different line of the rest of it. 64 max, and 56 base. I mean minus, least. And then I want you to give me your first 8 DLC fighters. I want to tally these up when the time comes and see what the community wants and who they want in Marvel vs. Capcom 4. I cannot wait to see who you guys choose, man. It's gonna be some wild stuff. Now be sure, if you like content like this, there's gonna be more than this. There's gonna be, we got more roster rearranged, we got more fighting visions, all that. Like and comment. You don't have to sub just yet. All I ask is for you to like and comment on the video. That's all I ask, or one of them. Either way, my name is SHINTONE. Until this confirmation, I will be seeing you guys. Thank you for watching, and peace.
Don't you want a rematch?